Okay, hello, good afternoon, everyone. So thank you for joining Creating Portals to New Worlds, one of the many virtual events of the 2020 Philippine Readers and Writers Festival, brought to you by National Bookstore with special thanks to Raffles Makati. So bago tayo magsimula, we invite you to shop for books online at www.nationalbookstore.com and the official NBS store on Shopee. So pwede rin kayo mag-shop from NBS branches via chat to shop on Facebook Messenger or text to order through SMS or Viber. So as a special offer for PRWF, you can get 10% off on all local books and up to 20% off on imported books when you shop online from September 25 to October 4 only. So add to cart and check out now. Limited stocks available, and we're not kidding. No, this book that we're about to talk about right now actually did briefly sell out yesterday in National Bookstore. So thank you to everyone who bought. It's now back in stock. So salamat NBS, and that we were able to quickly get back in action. But for everyone who's supporting this book, even before it was officially launched, thank you very much. So, Ian, before we get started, I'd like to introduce the man of the moment, author Mickey Ingles. He has medyo mahaba yung resume niya, so may dala akong legal pad kasi isa rin siyang abogado. No? So anyway, Mickey Ingles splits his time right now between working in the law firm of Ingles, Laurel, and Calderon. And he's also a full-time professor at the Ateneo de Manila University School of Law. So this actually is not his first book. He's written two very exciting blockbusters before this book. He's the author of Laws for the Sports and the Sporty, which is the definitive guide on Philippine sports law. And he also made Tax Made Less Taxing, so which is a best-selling textbook on Philippine taxation, which is now on its second edition. So kung abogado po kayo or nag-aaral po kayo sa law school, you may have run into his books before, no? He's also the founder and editor-in-chief of Batas Sportiva, which is the first and only law blog dedicated to Philippine sports law. So you can check that out online. He also writes for our website, very proud of this, spin.ph, which is the country's leading standalone sports website. And he also contributes as well to rappler.com. So graduate siyang salutatorian from the Ateneo Law School in 2012, and he was also the bar top-notcher in that year. So wow, medyo congratulations on that. 8-year congratulations in the making. No? So he is a licensed attorney in the Philippines and the state of New York. So when he's not busy lawyering and writing, Mickey can also be found on the football field. So he was the starting right winger of the Ateneo men's football team that won a record 3 straight UAAP championships from 2004 to 2006. He was team captain in his last year there and was also named the 2006 UAAP Scholar of the Year. And I believe he also played professionally briefly in the UFL and in a Shanghai league when he studied there. No? All right, so Mickey, sobrang renaissance man. So congratulations. So binasa ko tong napakahabang resume mo, and then I have to add at the end, you are also a fantasy novelist. So as of today, you are now officially a fantasy novelist. So compared with the other things in your resume, napaka-random nito. So how did Alinam start for you?
So Alinam, well, first off, I want to say thank you to Summit, because if Summit wasn't around and took a chance in this book, I'd still be like a draft novelist. But now I'm like a published novelist. Thanks to you, Leo, for picking it up. So thank you guys. So how did Alinam start? I started writing it in 2009. 2009, I was in second year law school, the first semester. That was, I think, the toughest semester in law school until now, because there are a lot of subjects that you have to deal with. And on top of that, I was planning, my wife was planning a wedding with me, and I was supporting her. I mean, because that's how it normally goes. And it was very stressful trying to balance both things out. So I needed an escape. And the escape was writing this novel. So Alinam is, if you guys are clever, it's just Manila spelled backwards.
Yeah, right? I think a lot have pointed that out nga, na parang, oo nga, no, like it's a light bulb moment for them na parang, oh nga, no, it's Manila spelled backwards. Anyway.
Yeah. So it's Manila spelled backwards because the I've always been a fan of like Neil Gaiman, of J.K. Rowling, and how they make world building, do world building, and I've always wanted to have that sort of world building here in the Philippines, right? So Alinam, I built it slowly. There are a lot of influences. Some influences are countries where and cities where I visited or lived in, like Shanghai, Boston, Barcelona, Edinburgh. You would see the different influences of these different cities in Alinam. But of course, the main influence is Manila, because the inspiration for it was an old map, an 1898 map of Manila. And when I was looking at the map, it was super detailed, and I was wondering, I wonder what would actually happen if you're walking down the streets of Old Manila and you're walking down the street tas may aswang. So that's the big what if moment.
Nice, nice. Okay, so just a brief background for readers who may be tuning in right now and have never heard of this book before. I mean, in a nutshell, what can you say? What is Alinam all about?
So Alinam is all about these three teenagers. The main protagonist is called Diego. His name is Diego Domingo. I have his Funko Pop here. That's Diego Domingo. So cool,
Nice.
right? Yeah. So he's the main protagonist. He's a teenager. He's very shy, very awkward. And then they fall into this portal and land in a place called Alinam. Their main goal is to get home, back to Manila. But of course, there are a lot of things that happen in between. They get involved in some political controversies. They meet someone who they thought was dead, and then they meet other characters which they only thought existed in like Filipino folk stories. So that's the main elevator pitch of what Alinam is.
All right. So, you're playing in a genre that's quite familiar to everyone. I mean, obviously, when I was growing up, the whole Narnia gimmick of a portal in another world, portal to another world in your own world. No? So, tell us how you create. I mean, you kind of briefly touched upon this before during the first part of this panel, but how did you create this world?
Well, I got a lot of inspiration from Neil Gaiman and from the book Unlundun by China Melville. I think that's how you pronounce. And the Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafon, who recently passed away. I like those books because it made the setting, it made the city like a character on its own, and I wanted something like that. The reason why I wanted something like that is because when I was reading these books, it felt like I was really in Barcelona, or I was really in London Underground, or really in Unlundun. Right? I wanted anyone who would read the book to feel immersed also in a different city, a city that's familiar because it's based in the Philippines, but a bit different as well because it involves like mythological creatures. It involves people you thought had died 100 years ago. So that was the main inspiration. So like I mentioned a while ago, whenever I travel, me and my wife we love going to like old districts like the Barrio Gotik in Barcelona. And when I see those places, it really stirs my imagination, and I start wondering, oh, I wonder what happened here. I wonder what's going to happen if I bring someone out of this world into that world and see the shenanigans that can happen. So basically, that's how it got built up, slowly by slowly, district per district in Alinam.
All right. So this is a very writerly question, no? But what came first, Alinam or Diego?
Oh,
Like,
Diego.
did the world come before the character?
I think the character, because I remember the first scene that I wrote. It was in Manila, so it was the character came first. Diego Domingo came first, yeah. And then I just built Alinam around him, or that's where he fell.
Okay. So, right. I mean, one of the cool things I like about your book, and this is something that I've always wanted, I've always been looking, I always look forward to whenever I buy a new fantasy novel, is the map, no? There's like a
Yeah.
little map of the world on the first few pages of the book, and it's a complete spread and it's all fully illustrated. So, how did you kind of, you said you based Alinam on this map of 1898 Manila, and the cool thing about your city is that there are really distinct districts, and there are really distinct histories that go into every region and every street
Mhm.
within Alinam. So how did you kind of piece that together, and how did you make sure that it was consistent?
Okay, so the district idea, I got that from Shanghai, right? I lived in Shanghai from 2006 to 2007 to study Chinese, and the history of Shanghai was that it was like chopped up like a melon for the foreigners. So you had a French district, they called it the French concession, and then you had the British district, which I think they occupied the Bund. So I was wondering if Alinam could have something like that, because the districts in Shanghai are very, very distinct. They're distinct districts. And here in the Philippines, we have the same, right? Like Binondo's, Chinatown, and then you have Old Manila, Paco, right? Those were where the rich folks used to live. So I still wanted
Yeah,
that
yeah.
because it's something really nice to discover. And once you have those little districts in your head, then you can start inventing histories behind them, right? So for example, in Shanghai, they had the French concession. It was called a concession because it was given to the French. In Alinam, you have this thing called the you have this thing called the market concession, right? And this concession is where these beings live. So I got that idea. So again, it was looking at different cities where I lived and traveled and try to put it into the setting of Manila.
Okay, nice, nice. Actually, it's good you and I think one very crucial scene happened in the, the concession district, di ba? Yeah, and
Yeah.
another thing about your about Alinam is that there's this brewing civil war going on, or there's this conflict or tension between the natives and the humans, no? So can you describe a little about, what are the political tensions that are happening right now in this world that you created?
Sorry, Leo. My internet was bad at that moment. What was your
Yeah.
question? What are the
What
political?
are the political tensions that are happening in Alinam at the moment that you wanted
Oh,
to
the
bring
lot.
out in the
Yeah.
book?
Well, there are a lot of political tensions. Usual tension between haves and have-nots. The usual tension between landowners and those who own that land, right? Like indigenous. It deals a bit. Well, one of the undercurrent themes of it is the rights of the indigenous, right? Here in the story, they're called the natives, and you will find out why they're called the natives because there's a historical line going on, and the indigenous beings here in Alinam were displaced because of the arrival of us humans. And I think that's something that most countries can relate to. We saw it in the States with the Trail of Tears, with the Native Americans being subjected to all kinds of atrocities. We've seen it here in the Philippines with our indigenous people being cast aside merely because they were not considered Christian tribes under both Americans and the Spanish rule. So I was trying to put like a metaphor for it in the book and see how it would maybe change history if it was turned the other way.
Right, right. And also, coming into this world are three very distinct characters, no? So I think a lot of what we are talking about makes Alinam sound very serious, no? And it is. It is a very serious. There's a lot of action that's going on. There's a lot of intrigue. But one of the things that I really like about your work is that it's actually pretty funny as well. There's a lot of humor in Alinam, and that comes out of the three characters that you decided to make as your protagonists, no? And they're a very actually I was thinking nga similar siya sa Harry Potter in that 'di ba yung tatlo nga si Harry, Ron, tsaka si Hermione. So people would kind of make the parallelism na parang uy baka si Diego, si Sofia, tsaka si Luis baka parang ganun rin, no? But okay, tell us about these three and how you came up with this group of friends.
Okay, that's super interesting. So Diego is he was kind of like me in high school, curly hair, a bit chubby, always wearing like Hawaiian shirts. So that's who Diego was. A bit awkward with girls.
Hawaiian
Or
shirts.
maybe
Wow. 90
yeah,
ano ba to?
Hawaiian
Anong taon ba
shirts.
to? 96 to 2000 ganun.
98 to 2000s, early
Yeah, yeah,
2000s.
yeah.
Using Hawaiian shirts na eh.
Oo nga, totoo, totoo. Okay.
Diba? So that was the inspiration having, and I think it's a bit of a trope having an awkward guy as a fantasy protagonist, but I think it works well here in the world of Alinam. After that, Luis, the inspiration of Luis were the basketball jocks that everyone looked up to in high school. We know who they are, like your AP juniors players, right? Everyone would envy them because they'd have all the pretty girls from, Woodrow, Poveda, Assumption, Holy Spirit, Miriam. And then
Wow,
you
nag-name
have the
drop talaga ng eskwelahan.
hi to all my friends from there, right? And then you have the awkward guys like sila Luis na parang like sila Diego na parang nahihiya, they don't know how to dance, they don't know how to talk to girls. And I think everyone can relate to that in high school, these two guys. And then of course you have the it girl because there's always an it girl in high school, right? There's always this girl from an exclusive girls school who's in commercials. Tapos kilala siya ng lahat ng mga boys schools. And that's Sophia Madrigal here, right? But the nice thing about these characters, syempre you want to subvert expectations. So there are some things or characteristics about these three people who are which might surprise people or surprise the readers. And I like that because people naman um are they have different characteristics. Like me, I mean people who know me in law school just know me as a lawyer, but people who know me in college knew me as a soccer player, right? And now no one knew that I was writing a book. So it's about subverting expectations, especially when you meet someone. Para like yung sinabi sa amin ng high school, wag kang mangkahon ng tao, right? So that's one of the themes for that.
Right, right. And I think this is something that they also encounter within the world, no? Na parang lahat ng expectations nila about a person or a group of people bigla na lang magbabago, di ba? So I think it's also they did a lot of growing up, no, within Alinam. And this is something also that's common in fantasy novels. Na you get transplanted to another world and suddenly you realize so many things about yourself, no? So did you go through something similar in your own life? Like, did you have to kind of go to another world or go drop into a portal to another world to discover na, okay, this is who I am?
Well, I've always thought that I was a good writer when it comes to like legal stuff because I normally write legal stuff. In Ateneo Law, we were required to write a thesis, and I think my thesis was well written. I didn't know that I could write a fiction piece of this length. So that was something that I discovered on my own. I loved writing stories when I was in college, when we were in the Merit English class in Ateneo. But that was it, just short stories. But when I started writing this, I just found out that it's fun. It's fun making the connections. It's fun making the logic of the world and everything, trying to adhere to that logic of the world. It's fun planting a seed here, and then it'll bloom like 20 chapters after. I found it really fun, and I found it in myself that I actually could write something long and pretty fun to do. So I think that's my road to self-discovery.
All right. So itong libro pala yon, yung parang yung Alinam ay naging Alinam mo, kumbaga.
Yeah, true. Parang training montage sa 1980s movie.
Yeah, exactly. Parang mga sports movies, di ba? Bigla na lang. Pero yung mga eksena, yung nagta-type ka lang sa laptop
Susulat
mo.
lang.
Nagsusulat
Mag-isa.
So medyo boring.
Medyo boring, ganun lang.
Pero sinabi mo nga, no, people know you as a lawyer. People know you as a football player. People know you as a bar top notcher. Tapos bigla na lang, ano yung naging reaction nila na biglang nagsusulat ka pala ng YA novel, di ba? So, what was the reaction of your friends and your family?
Well, I think they got surprised. I'm not sure if they expected it because I can't like I don't know what they were thinking, but mostly they were congratulating me and saying, you can write pala, you're parang what else can you not do, ganyan. I can't do a lot, right? I mean, this is my first time to delve into art per se. I've never thought that I was a creative or artsy person because I'm crap at music. I can't draw. So this was like my only opportunity to hone another aspect of who I am as a person para I can be more well-rounded. And thankfully it's been working out so far, this whole writing thing.
All right. So before we go into the making of Alinam, no, and I think that's a very, very interesting question in itself because Mickey's story as a writer will, I think, gives a lot of insights to people who are also trying to, come up with stories of our own. But before we go into that, I just like to encourage everyone who's watching this live stream. First of all, thank you so much. And kung may mga tanong po kayo for Mickey, about Alinam or his writing process or any other topic under the sun, you can leave a comment in the Facebook thread where you're watching this. So please do so. So anyway, this book started 11 years ago. So medyo matagal-tagal na, di ba? You said you started it in one of your toughest semesters of law school. And why, di ba? Hindi ba pag medyo matindi yung nararanasan mo, parang magpahinga ka na lang, but no, you decided to start a fantasy novel. So tell us about, that time 11 years ago when you decided, okay, I need to start writing this novel.
So it was a very stressful time because of law school and planning a wedding. And usually when things get stressful, I try to find a release. At the time, like my normal release is playing football, but at that time I was too busy with law school to play football seriously. So the next thing I did was try to write. Because normally when I write, especially when I like what I'm writing, and I'm sure you know this, Leo, when you're writing, sometimes the words just start flowing. And in sports speak, it's like you're in the zone.
Yeah.
And when you're in the zone, I think that's the most that's for me, that's super ideal because it's like you're there in the moment. It's super mindful. So writing for me was a practice of mindfulness, even if I didn't know it that time. So I started writing in 2009, just for fun. I would write it during exam periods in law school. So that's counterintuitive. But usually, kasi during the exam periods in law school, you have more time because you're not doing the daily grind. Basta maayos mo yung study schedule mo, you're fine. Started writing it then, kept writing it. After I took the bar in November or October 2012, I had 2 or 3 months before I started work as a lawyer. So sinabi ko sa akin, to my mind, sinabi ko sa sarili ko parang, I have to finish the book by 2013 kasi I was starting a job in a firm in 2013. Obviously, hindi ko nagawa. Kasi ang daming plot threads that I wanted to explore pa. Eventually, I got to finish it during my gap year. Because in 2014, me and my wife moved to Boston because she was taking her master's in Boston College. And I wasn't doing anything. I was like, I'll just finish this now. So I finished it fall of 2015. Fall of 2014. So that was December in Boston. Natapos ko siya. I remember finishing it in this small cafe in Newberry Street in Boston. Then immediately pumunta ako sa library ng Boston College. Pinrent ko na siya. Kasi parang printed copy, ganyan.
Eh, gano'ng kakapal yung kinalabasan nun?
mahal siya kasi kailangan mo magbayad per page eh.
Mahal ang papel doon, I'm sure.
Grabe yan. So, tapos I told my friends on Instagram, oh, do you want to read it? Some people read it. They liked it naman. And then, it was the first draft. And then multiple drafts came along, and then you guys came along, picked it up. So I was very thankful for that.
What was the last scene you wrote? I mean, did you write it in order, like from chapter 1 all the way to the epilogue?
Yeah, I wrote it in order. I wrote it in order. So the initial draft of this had 4 chapters before the starting chapter of the book, right? And then nangyari was mga 2016, 2017, I started giving the manuscripts out to local publishers and then foreign agents because I wanted it to be published internationally so our international readers can find out more about Philippine culture. Unfortunately, the foreign agents, they're super solid sila eh. Solid sila. Yeah. So
in what way? Na parang malupit.
Malupit sila.
Malupit sila magsalita.
I remember so I had to learn on my own how to write itong mga letter of introductions with a pitch, a 50-word pitch or ganyan. So I remember submitting it to one foreign agent who I was following on Twitter. Pag send ko sa kanya, bigla siya nag-tweet na parang someone's an amateur if he writes a prologue to his story. Tapos parang, sino pa kaya yun? Ako yun eh. Because I wrote a prologue in the story.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so parang okay, medyo downer yun ah. So ang
Yeah,
daming
yeah, yeah.
rejections na parang ganyan. And then I sent it to a local publisher here. They read it naman, pero sabi nila parang bad writing sa simula, bad writing, ganyan. But it was my fault kasi I was sending them the first draft. And you should never send like the first draft, right? Siguro dapat second or third draft na para at least na improve mo na, ganyan. Then I sent it to another publisher here. Sabi ng publisher parang it's too smart for the target audience. So parang, what does that mean? Do I have to dumb it down? Ganyan. I didn't want to do that naman kasi I wanted the integrity of the story to still stay intact. So after that, I realized, okay, the first 4 chapters, it might be too slow, especially if you're giving it to foreign agents. Kasi they wanna, once they start reading the first few paragraphs, gusto nila in action kagad eh. So yung first 4 chapters and that that notorious prologue, I took it out. And then I started weaving na lang those elements into the story.
Right. So the prologue actually still exists. It just binato mo lang sinid mo lang sa ibang chapters or split it up.
Yung prologue, it's not there in the story.
Okay.
I sent it to Steph while we were editing it. Sabi niya, oh, that's a nice prologue, ganyan. Kasi it would explain some things, pero na-realize ko na parang better na yung start, yung where it starts right now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but that's really interesting that you had to go through all of this rejection before you finally have the book in your hands. And oh, sorry, I see it's right behind you. Can you just? I don't have my copy yet, unfortunately, no. But can you just show it to our readers here? So there you go, Alinam, Diego Domingo, and the Mandato Ruiz.
And
with
here's
illustrations
the map.
by
Rica Diaz.
Rica Diaz, yeah.
There's the map.
Yeah. So it's Intramuros spelled back, and it's like a mirror image of Intramuros, di ba?
Yeah.
And I think can you show them yung mga chapter openers rin, yung mga illustrations ni Rica.
There you go.
Yeah, so I think this one was very Harry Potter inspired rin. You have these whimsical illustrations at the start of every chapter, no?
Yeah, they're so good. I mean, I'm so happy that Rica came on board. So si Rica, she's the sister of my law school blockmate, si Rona Diaz. And then Rica, I met her because we were looking for a logo for our sports law blog, Bata Sportiva. And then she made it for me because it was part of her school. And then we kept in touch. Tapos like, oh, Rica, you want to make a cover art for the book? Not this cover pa, as in yung before pa yung just for me. Tapos she drew it, ganyan. And then when I started publishing stuff on Wattpad, she started drawing those little chapter introduction art. Super good. Sobrang galing ni Rica.
Yeah. Okay. So, yun na nga. I think medyo familiar to for any aspiring writer na you get rejections. And even when the manuscript came to us, medyo matagal rin yung journey, di ba?
Yeah.
I mean, sobrang we did ask for a lot from you.
Yeah.
To get the book in its final boss form, kumbaga, na mababasa na ng mga tao ngayon, no? But so how did you keep your spirits up, just hearing all of these things? And I mean, I'm sure there was that temptation na parang wag na, I mean, ba't ko pa pinaghihirapan to, successful naman ako sa lawyer, etc.
Yeah, there was a point, I think around, because we met 2018, right? Because you guys were super interested in the book, and then because of different reasons, hindi natuloy. Mga 2019, before I published it on Wattpad, sabi ko, maybe I should just focus on law and delete the manuscript, right? Kasi parang I read this book na you have to be focused on a solitary goal, ganyan. Thankfully, hindi, because you guys message and said, tuloy natin yan. But what kept me going was looking at tweets by JK, by reading yung Tumblr blog before ni Neil Gaiman, reading his tweets. And they always said, like, the JK posted this tweet and it's there in the book. that even if your story, your art does not find an audience, it doesn't mean it's not good, right? It's still there, and just finishing it shows you a different side of who you are. And then it changes you from a person who would just tell people, "Oh, I'm thinking of writing a story," into someone who actually wrote a story, right? Because we know a lot of people who say na parang, "Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that," pero most of it is mga parang toka-toka lang. But I didn't want to be that kind of person. Say, "Oh, I have a story in my mind, it's going to be good," but not actually write the story. So I because of JK's tweet, parang na-inspire ako, parang keep going, keep going. And then I remember this blog post before of Neil Gaiman. He said that you if you're a writer, you write, and that means you finishing what you write, and that's one of the most important things that you have to do. That if you start something, if you start your story, make sure you end it, because that's what's gonna make you a writer, and that's what's gonna differentiate you from a person who says he's gonna write and a person who actually wrote. So I'm very thankful for the inspiration of these two great authors. And yesterday, diba, I told you,
Yes,
Leo.
yes, yun.
Yeah.
Yun na nga. Yeah, ang ganda nga ng segue nun because no, you screenshotted your tweet and you sent it to me and hindi ako makasalita for 2 minutes. So, pakikwento sa audience kung anong nangyari.
Okay, so yes, matagal ko nang gustong, I mean, mga 2013, I messaged Neil Gaiman because he was doing this survey for one of his short stories. And then I remember tweeting him parang, "I want to know if the manananggal in my story is really nice." Tapos parang nilike niya. So when I finished the story, I messaged him on Twitter. Ma-reply sa Twitter yun. He tweeted something about subways or whatever. So sabi ko parang, "Hey Neil, I wrote this story. It's kind of like Neverwhere, but it's based in Manila, based in the Philippines. Would you like a copy?" Tapos nag-reply siya. And then yung reply niya, parang, "Sure, congratulations. I'd love to read it. Get in touch with si Neverwhere. I think Neverwhere works for Neil. Her name's Kat." So this morning,
Yeah.
Kat tweeted me back, and then sabi niya, "Hey, email me here." So I emailed them. I emailed Kat. Tapos sabi niya, "Okay, send it here to our office in LA. When Neil comes home, he'll find it in his library." Right? So next week, I'm gonna email him. I'm gonna send the book to Neil and send one book to Kat as well. And I'm gonna screenshot some tweets that really helped me go through this writing process because of him. Solid.
Right. Ganda. So,
Solid,
galing.
yeah.
What a story, no?
Yeah.
So, I mean, aside from, you mentioned these writers and these cities as inspiring either A, your work ethic, or how you really sat down and finished the story, and B, as inspirations for the city, no? But in terms of, how you wanted the story to feel like and how you wanted the world to be, what were the biggest inspirations to you? I mean, you mentioned shadow in the wind.
Shadow of the Wind.
Shadow of the wind. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Well, Shadow
tell
of the
us more
Wind.
about all these. Tell us about all these inspirations.
So I wanted the feel to be like Shadow of the Wind. So if anyone, I mean, it's such a good book, Shadow of the Wind. So story niya, it's like post or pre-Civil War in Barcelona, and it's really dark, but the writing is super flowery and super good. And like I said a while ago, Barcelona there is like a character on its own. Talagang mafe-feel mo na ano yung ginagawa ng city, ano yung feeling niya pag madilim, pag umaga, pag gabi. I wanted that as the feel of Alinam, right? And one of the things I learned from Carlos Ruiz is name your streets, right? Name your streets para they really feel alive and real. I mean, sa Barcelona kasi the streets are all real, but here, since it's a fictional world, I wanted to name the streets, and I really had fun naming them. So if you look at the names of the streets, they're names of people I know. So parang may mga Easter eggs for my friends, ganyan. So the feel of it is Shadow of the Wind. And then the class conflict, that's inspired by yung Bartimaeus trilogy, which is another good fantasy trilogy. The class conflict there was about magicians and the genie. Kasi in that story, parang the magicians only have power because of the genie that they control and enslave.
Yeah,
Same,
that's right. Jonathan Stroud, di ba?
Jonathan Stroud, sobrang galing.
Yeah.
Parang
Ah,
super underrated also. I mean, where are his shows, right? So here, ganun din. There's a class conflict brewing between the humans and the natives. And then, of course, you have the magical elements, how it will go. Hogwarts, Harry Potter's always been a big inspiration. And what I loved about Harry Potter is the academic setting. Kasi I read it when I was in high school, tas it really stuck to me. So that's why I tried to put some academic settings here in the book. Parang you would
mhm.
know, di ba, yung mga different lessons, ganyan. And then other magic, Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Kasi when I was writing this, when I was doing research on how to write fantasy novels, one of the things I learned is that you have to have rules in your magic. Hindi lang siya pwedeng bara-bara na parang, oh, pwede kang gumawa ng mga dragon, ganyan-ganyan. Kasi having those rules will ground you and will help you become more creative in using those rules for magical purposes. It will also help the reader na para hindi siya Deus Ex Machina na lang bigla. So I got that
Yeah.
from Patrick Rothfuss. And of course, yung like you mentioned a while ago, yung Portal to Another World, Neil Gaiman, Neverwhere, Unlundun, China Melville. So those are the inspirations. Hopefully, it all works out. It
Yeah.
all the elements fuse into the story.
So there's a lot, no? There's a lot that you put in Alinam, but one of the big things that actually very crucial part of the story was the concept of Salamanca or magic, and
Yeah.
this one talagang gumawa ka ng rule set
Yeah.
about that. So walang, I mean, siguro, I mean, I don't think if it's a spoiler to discuss like, okay,
No.
in your mind, how does magic work or how does Salamanca work in Alinam?
Well, three things. Kasi for lawyers, we always have to enumerate things. Eh. So same thing with magic.
Okay, here
Um,
comes the lawyer talk.
so what are the requisites for someone to use Salamanca? Ganyan yung mga tanong siguro kung sa law school. First requisite is imagination. So imagination starts with an I. So imagination, you have to be able to visualize what you want your magic to look like or how it should be used. And I've been a um, big fan of imagination because I think it's especially when it comes to legal work because you want to try to be creative. Number two is concentration. Starts with a C. Concentration because you have to learn how to focus. You have to learn what you really want. You have to be mindful, be in the moment, be present. So you need imagination, concentration. And three, you have to have elements around you. Meaning, like parang sa Harry Potter, transfiguration. You can't make something out of nowhere, right? You have to transform something. So the elements here, water, fire, the soil, mga Captain Planet stuff, it has to be
Or
available for you
Avatar
to
The
use.
Last Airbender. I
Or
mean,
Avatar, yeah.
mas contemporary naman na reference. I think Steph just messaged me that our ages are showing. So
Okay.
let's just say Avatar The Last
Avatar na lang,
Airbender.
Avatar, yeah. Captain Planet, matagal na yun ah.
Sobrang tagal, men.
Okay, so yun. So you have to have the elements around you because you can only work with what the world is giving you. It's like real life, diba? So if you have imagination, you have concentration, you have the elements, ice. If you have the ice, you can wield Salamanca, you can practice magic in this fictional world of Alinam. So there.
Nice, nice. Okay, so yun ang parang thesis of magic. So
Yeah,
ICE,
I see.
imagination, concentration, and elements. Okay,
Elements.
sana nga gumana sa mundong to, no? All
Sana
right,
nga.
so yeah, okay, so we have a couple of reader questions na andito. Yes, so okay, so let's get started with them. Handa ka na ba? Ito the best. Let's start with the best question. So question from MM.
Hi, MM.
Ingles po ba yung book?
Yeah,
Dahil
yes.
Mickey Ingles.
Yes, it's in English. It's in English. And then, English siya, may mga Filipino words, may mga Spanish words. Then may mga mix of both. Nag-iimbento ko ng words to make it clever. Pero English po siya, English.
Okay, okay, good, good. All right. So this is from Mika De Leon. What are your tips for map making for fantasy worlds?
Oh, tips for map making. Use
I
Google
know you
Maps.
mentioned one already, which is name your streets, no?
Yeah, name your streets. When I was making it, I'm not artsy. So what I tried doing before was, syempre, it was easy for me because I had the map inspiration, right? But one of the things that helped me, especially when I was figuring out, oh, how long will it take from here to get from here to here, use Google Maps. Kasi it will help you. Oh, parang from Katipunan to Binondo, gaano katagal ba yung jeep ride na yan? And then you just put in Google Maps. So that's been helpful.
Yeah.
And then get an artist friend to render it for you, because we all have to know our limitations art-wise.
Nice. Okay. Yeah,
So
very
those are
useful.
the tips. Yeah.
All right. From Ella Bianca, are you an outliner? Did you outline Alinam? And can you share some of your favorite chapters?
Oh no, I wasn't. Actually, I don't remember. I think I had a rough outline in my head. How I would write it, I would think of scenes that would look cool, and then write around it, or write towards that cool scene. Kasi pag cool scene siya for me, na-excite ako to write it and to write something that's going towards that scene. Kasi kung sa first draft, puro ganun naman eh. And then you just try to clean things up after. So what are my favorite scenes? The first chapter is one of my favorite scenes because it was one of the first things I've ever written for Alinam. The scene where, like you mentioned a while ago, the thing that happened in the concession market, in the compact concession market, I liked writing
Yeah.
that scene. And then there's a scene there where the protagonist enters the palace. I liked writing that. I liked writing it because I remember when I was writing it. I was writing it the morning the morning that we were going to find out our bar results. So that was March 20, 2013.
Wow, ang tense nun.
Well, I was happy ako nun eh. Kasi wala kami, parang we got off work. Kasi
Yeah.
so I was writing it in Starbucks Fort. Tapos when I was writing it, happy ako. Parang, walang trabaho, ganyan. Tapos paalis na ako ng Starbucks Fort kasi malapit na lumabas yung bar results and I had to buy tennis shoes. Nabangga pa ako sa poste kasi I was so... I was thinking of the story, I was thinking of the bar results. Nabangga ako sa poste. So
Nice,
then,
nice.
I like that chapter because I like going back to that time, that day. It was a really good day for me.
No, I think that tension also made it into the chapter because it was very James Bond. Naalala ko yung feel na yun. Very,
Yeah,
may
parang spy siya.
pagka-skullduggery
Yeah.
na nangyayari. Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, next we have from Coco. Can I ask for legal advice? Pero
Pwede,
walang
Coco.
follow-up. Walang follow-up. Hindi ko alam kung anong legal advice yung kailangan niya ngayon. Pero to Coco, good luck with that.
Good luck.
So, from Joshua Garcia, what is your favorite part of building your story?
The freedom to do anything that I found cool to do in the story. I like that, and I also like I like writing things na may pinaguhugutan ako personally or personal experience. So that because it's like a release. Parang I was feeling bad at this point. I was feeling excited. You'd see that in certain parts of the story. So I like that. I just liked feeling in the moment when I was writing. So I like that about the story.
In the zone nga, sabi mo, di ba? Yeah. Jen are you thinking of writing another book? I know you just came out with a new law book right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that counts. Pero
I don't think it counts. Well, sa law books, I just finished with the 3rd edition of Tax Madeless Taxing. So be out 2021. But for fiction, Alinam, I've been writing the 2nd book since 2016. Right. So actually, the ending of this book was supposed to be the 1st chapter of the 2nd book of Alinam. So I'm working on that right now. Yeah.
Right. Very exciting. Okay. From Angeli Way. Okay. So based on the spot.ph article about your novel, there are steampunk elements. No? So what made you decide these kinds of elements? What made you decide to add these kinds of elements to your setting? Because it's very rare, she says, to find this kind of theme in Filipino novels. Also, random fact, there is a barangay in Kawayan City, Isabela called Alinam.
True, true. May alinam nga sa Isabela. Um, well, actually, to be honest, I don't know anything about steampunk. So, so when that article came out, parang, okay, what's steampunk? Because I realized na it was yung parang colonial, old school times. It might look like steampunk kasi one of my main motivations when I was writing this, I didn't want any guns. And I didn't want any modern technology kasi I thought it would um, mess up the story. So siguro naging steampunky type because of that.
I
I
think
always
the era.
the
The
era.
era,
Okay, the era.
yeah, the era that you set it in, it's okay. I don't know if you've actually established it in your head, no, but you know, Alinam is obviously has a different time period
Mm-hmm.
from Manila, the current Manila, no.
Yeah.
Just as an aside, for those who don't know yet, or for those who are yet to get their copy, Real World Manila happens in 1999 or 2000,
Yes. Yeah. Around
right?
the time. Yeah.
So around Manila. But when they go to Alinam, it's kind of Manila as it was maybe in the 1890. I mean,
1890s, yeah,
mhm,
1900s. So
okay,
okay, so I get the question now. I like that period. Eh. I like looking at old pictures of Manila. Parang, oh, it's so nice, right? Maganda sa Intramuros, maganda sa Paco, maganda sa Ermita. So I wanted to go back to that time. That was basically the main motivation to write something na medyo colonial Manila. Kasi that's what sila Carlos Ruiz Zafon did with Barcelona. They went back to an old time, an old era. So I wanted to go back to that time. Mga Spanish and parang patapos na yung Spanish era, pa-start pa lang yung American era. And I think that was, when you look at the architecture at the time, ang ganda eh. So I wanted to go back to that time.
right. And you had the technology nga na, you had giant vintas. What I mean, yeah, just a teaser. I'm just gonna run down the stuff that I found cool in your novel. You had giant vintas,
Mm-hmm.
uh, elephant rides. You know, the Sultan del Sur. You also had trams, no?
Yes.
That was kind of the height of technology. So you had trams and you had people who carried swords as a matter of course. Yung parang
Yes.
ordinary lang, yung pang-duel lang,
Yeah.
they have swords
Pang-duel, yeah.
there. And of course, you have Salamanca, but that's kind of limited lang sa population. No? It's not so
True.
commonplace. Mm-mm.
Yeah, and then I think you will find out if ever I get to do the second or third novel, why only some people can wield Salamanca, not everyone.
All right. Okay. Wow. Exciting. All right. Next question. Okay. From Rina. Hi, Mickey. Who's your dream cast if Alinam gets a film or TV series adaptation? Paging Netflix raw.
Okay. Well, alam ko na who Sofia will be.
Okay.
Liza Soberano, of course.
Okay.
Di ba?
I won't
Bagay
argue
naman,
that.
di ba? Bagay naman, di ba?
Bagay sa character. Yeah.
Bagay sa character.
It would be very flattering.
Di ba? Exactly siya
Mutually.
eh. Di ba?
Sakto.
Si Diego Domingo. I was thinking parang Shia LaBeouf, but mga Transformers type na Shia LaBeouf. Not yung Shia LaBeouf right now. Medyo awkward, di ba? Or Tom Holland. Tom Holland na lang. Tom Holland para astig.
Okay.
Tapos si Luis Tolentino. I can mess up naman the ages of people, di ba?
Yeah.
Bagay si Chris Evans as Luis Tolentino. Medyo jockey.
So yun parang yung parang mga archetypes rin ng ano nila eh.
Okay, right. I'd watch that, di ba? Tom Holland, Liza Soberano, Chris Evans.
Okay. So this is from Michaela Sara. What is the experience and how different is the experience and the discipline of writing, for example, nonfiction books like law versus writing fiction books? Now, since as an editor sa Spin, I actually read your other book, which was Laws for Sports and the Sporty. So, but I haven't read Taxation Made Less Taxing. And I've read Alinam. So, but I think iba-iba rin yung approaches mo per book, no?
Yeah. Well, I found it easier to write the law books because in law books, just like what any lawyer would know, palagi kang may pinaghuhugutan. You always have to look for a legal basis, and it's the law, and it's the cases or it's the regulations that you're basing off it. So, like writing a tax book, it's more research based and more trying to figure out where this would go and this where this would go, how this case would talk about the statute or the tax code. So that was a bit easy for me because you're not inventing things. But when it comes to writing a novel, it's hard because even if it's there in your head, even if the story is in your head, it's hard to put it down to words kasi nag-iimbento ka eh. Diba? Sa law, you always have that crutch of the law to go back to. When it comes to writing a novel, you don't have the crutch. It's just you inventing things, blank piece of paper. So I found that I found it more difficult to write a fiction book than a law book.
Okay, but also as you said, more liberating, diba?
Yeah, more
Like that was
liberating.
that was one of the fun parts for you. Though
Super.
I've kind of understand na parang mas mahirap nga.
Yeah.
Kasi you're the one setting the rules. No? You're the one setting the law. Okay, this is actually one of my questions, but Julius also wants to ask this. No, so as for aspiring writers, what can you say to them? And I think this one I really appreciate about your story because you've been trying to get this book made for the past 11 years.
Yeah. Just keep writing. Like I mentioned a while ago, if you start something, just push through, power through until you finish that, right? Because you just have to set the discipline. Because it's easy for writers to write when they're inspired, but inspiration doesn't come every day. So it really takes a lot of discipline. One of the things that helped me aside from JK and from Neil with their advice was reading the book of Stephen King on writing. Sinabi niya doon, you treat writing like work. You sit down in your writing table, wherever that may be, every day, or at least try to be as consistent as you can and just do the work, right? With anything in life, it's about doing the work. And if you have a story in your head and then you want to put it into paper, you don't have any choice but to start writing and to finish it. So you have to make some sacrifices. Maybe you have to wake up earlier to find time in your day because writing naman isn't the most lucrative um, professions, right? It won't, di ba?
Unfortunately,
Di ba? Alam
yeah.
natin yan, Leo. Di ba? So, but
Uh,
if you want to scratch that itch and you want to scratch that itch every day. So keep writing every day, find time. Kahit mga one paragraph a day, diba, or two paragraphs, that's gonna build up into 365 paragraphs in a year. Diba? Well, how many pages na yun?
I don't know if you want to add pa to your question because Michaela Sarah is back with another one, but important writing advice that any new fiction writer needs to hear right now.
Oh, read a lot. Read a lot of books. Read a lot of fiction books, non-fiction books. Because most of and the elements I got were inspired by all the books that I've read, right? Because when you're reading a book by a well-established author or by a new author, you get to look at things and say, "Hey, that's a cool thing. Why can I twist that and put it in my story?" Diba? So read a lot of books. And then makita mo na rin yung rhythm ng writing. Like si Neil Gaiman, when he writes, sometimes it's slow and then biglang magpipick up. So you can feel talaga the rhythm of his writing. Iba naman si JK, iba si Nicholas Stroud, Jonathan Stroud. So read a lot of books. And then after a while, you'll find your own voice when you write it.
Sorry, we have 3 minutes left, so I guess I'll wrap up with my own questions now. So, uh, the good thing about fantasy as a genre is that it obviously draws parallelisms between the world you create and the world you live in now.
Yeah.
So, when you were writing Alinam, what insights did you discover about Manila?
Um, well, first insight is parang sayang. Because when you look at how the pictures were before, Manila used to be like a really, really nice city. It still is now. I mean, the elements are still there. But of course, it got bombed during during World War II. Pero
Right.
parang sayang eh. Because if you look at other countries with how they kept their old cities, I mean, Manila could have had that. I'm hoping it can go back to that. aside from like the architecture and the physical structures, I also saw that there will always be people in power who will try to abuse. And sometimes the only way that you can beat these like abusive people in power is to speak the truth to them. Right? We see it now here in the world, and we'll see it also in Alinam.
Right. Okay. So yeah, we have last 2 minutes nga, ika nga sa basketball. Meron ka bang any message that you have for anyone planning to pick up the book?
Well, it's available now in National Bookstore online, their online store. It's available also in their Shopee store, National Bookstore. I hope you guys pick it up. It's a good Christmas gift for anyone. It might be coined as a young adult novel, but I think the themes here and the writing and just the excitement can be appreciated by almost everyone. So I hope you guys pick up the book. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who helped make this book possible. Leo, June, Coco, Steph, Mika. I mean, if you guys weren't there to say that it had potential, I mean, I'd still be it wouldn't we wouldn't be talking today. So thank you guys. I want to say thank you also to Rika Diaz for making the cover. Rika's amazing. She actually released an ebook yesterday, which is available for purchase of her art. So that's good. And I always
Nice,
want to say
nice.
hi to my wife. Hi, Mickey.
All right. Okay. So that closes our panel. So again, we hope you pick up a copy of Alinam. Personally, it's a great read. I mean, obviously I'm biased because I've been reading it for the past 2 or 3 years, but it's a fun one. So we hope you also enjoy. So yeah, I'd like to say thank you to everyone, and on behalf of National Bookstore and Summit Books, we want to thank everyone for joining us today. We want to remind you you can shop for Alinam, Diego Domingo, and the Mandato Ruiz on www.nationalbookstore.com and on the official NBS store in Shopee. So you can get 10% off on local books and up to 20% off on imported books when you shop online from September 25 to October 4 only. So the books that Nikki mentioned, yung mga Jonathan Stroud, Bartimaeus Trilogy, baka makita nyo dun and you can get it at a discount. So add to cart and check out now, limited stocks available. So this is it for us, but there are more virtual events coming up for the 2020 Philippine Readers and Writers Festival. Check out the complete lineup by visiting www.readersandwritersfestival.com or following National Bookstore on Facebook, so it's at NBS Alert, and on Instagram, at National Bookstore. So, ayun. So, thank you again and have a nice day to everyone.